Hey, what's up guys? This is Anthony from Anthony's Customs, and for this video, we are going to be talking about the great debate over McFarlane Toys versus Mattel and the DC license. There will be some video, I'll probably do some overlays or something, but I'm recording this as an audio, so you're not going to miss too much if you are only listening. Alright, also I'd like to ask, do you guys like this kind of thing when I do a little bit of talking rather than reviewing something a little out of the ordinary? I like it. I like getting to do something I don't normally do. Reviewing is not the most exciting thing in the world, and talking about, let's say, current events is a little bit more fun, especially when it's controversy. So, we're going to talk about it. Let's dive in. I want to start by talking about Mattel and McFarlane Toys, just in terms of their history, just a little bit, not like some kind of history lesson, just what we've seen from them. I'll start with Mattel. They had the DC Universe Classics line all those years ago, and it was a very dated line. A lot of people didn't like it due to the types of articulation they had. The knees and elbows were usually single jointed. For the longest time they were. Tons of reuse, but the one good thing they had, or I guess it's a couple good things really wrapped into one, the line was very uniform. Everything in that line fits together. It's not like Marvel Legends where half the figures look like a completely different artist came up with the designs and things like that. It was very uniform. I have every single one of those figures. So in a sense you could say I'm biased, but it's a very old line, so it doesn't really matter. The only one I'm missing, I think, is the bubble-chested Chemo. Is his name Chemo? I think that's his name. I don't remember. The green guy. This is a long time ago. Anyway, it was a very good line in some ways. They completed rosters, they completed teams, and the whole thing looked good. They all looked like superheroes. They all went together, but again, very, very dated articulation-wise. And by the time they ended, that specific line, not like the sister lines, they started to incorporate better articulation, and the figures were actually getting a lot better. But then the line kind of died and turned into DC Multiverse, or whatever they were calling it at the time. And then they started making really crap figures for quite a while. And there were a few hits along with the misses, but they haven't done a lot of consistent figures in a long time, and we'll come back to that end run they had there in just a minute. As far as McFarlane Toys go, there's not a huge track record of articulated figures with this company. Recently, obviously, they have the DC license, but I want to go a little bit farther back. I don't know, like 15 years ago now, when they were working on Halo 3, they were releasing incredibly well articulated figures with good accessories and really good paint and really good sculpt for a really good price. It was like 12 to 15 bucks. Now, they were shorter figures, and this was a long time ago, so it's not super relevant, other than to say they definitely can do articulated figures, and they can do them really well when they try. Now, I know Todd doesn't like doing articulated figures, and he definitely leans into the statues, and they tend to do really good work there too. They have a lot of good sculpt work and a lot of good paint work, or at least they have had, and they're definitely capable. So, just looking at those two things, I want to get to Todd's DC stuff in just a second, but just looking at those two historical batches of figures, I think both companies have some potential. They have the ability. Mattel has never been known for super high quality stuff though. So at face value, I would say I'd be more inclined to go with Todd. I would say Todd has a better chance. If I didn't know anything of the recent releases for either company, just going historically, I would say Todd's company has a better chance at making good product. They can sculpt well, they can paint well, and they can articulate. They look like high-end collectibles. Mattel hasn't done high-end collectibles really ever. They've done good action figures, but not in the high-end sense. But the big but here is the more recent stuff. So for Mattel, it's not even that recent. Like, they do the wrestling stuff, and they're actually doing pretty good stuff there, but it's still not like super high-end or anything. But I want to go back to the end bit of their DC license before they lost it. They had some real stinkers. It went downhill fast. It was really bad. They had some terrible, terrible releases that were ugly. They were engineered poorly. They were executed poorly. There was really nothing good about them. Like, one of the worst reviews I've ever done, or one of the things I reviewed the worst, however you want to put it, was their, I think it was their Dick Grayson Batman. I can't remember for sure. I'll put it on there if I can find it. But it was terrible, and they had a lot of those really bad ones. Now, it is worth noting they had some really good ones, and I keep seeing people post about how good Mattel was doing at the very end. It's like, okay, they did have some good releases, like Alfred, for instance, was a good release. Okay, fine, they did have some good ones, but they also had some really terrible ones, like really bad. And their really good ones were still in line with Mattel product. It didn't stand out as like a super high-end collectible. It was just a solid action figure, and that's fine. That's what it was supposed to be, so no problems there. That's fine. But still, it was clearly a Mattel kind of more general consumer-friendly line. All right, so that's what they had going for them with the DC stuff. When they lost it, I don't think too many people were really upset, because those few really good figures didn't make up for the really terrible ones. Like, how do you screw up Batman as bad as they did? Okay, and now we have Todd, who who has the Batman, DC line, and he's made like 99% of the figures Batman, which is fine, because Batman's cool and all, but it's not been a good line. They don't look good. Mostly they're terrible. Like, all the way around, they're not very good. A lot of the sculpts are really bad. Most of the articulation is really bad. The proportioning is bad. The accessories are usually the wrong scale. It's a really garbagey line overall. But, and the thing is here, Todd's company does have little shining moments. They have some figures in this line that are really good. They're very few. It's a very low percentage. I'd say like 3% of the line are actually really good releases, and maybe 10 are good enough to buy, if you're like being super critical. But the good ones they release are actually really nice. They have really good proportioning. Yeah, maybe the articulation's not what you would want, but it's functional. It works. Good proportioning, good sculpt work. And not so much the paint. They almost never have the paint. But the sculpt work is there. And so really adding paint is a matter of cost. It's not a matter of ability. Like, pretty much any company can get paint on a figure these days that's decent. As long as it's not like the tiniest, crappiest company, they'll be able to do it. So I'm not so worried about the paint in this sense, because that's just something that has to get done at the factory. But they have the ability to make collectible style figures with really good sculpts, high detailed sculpts, and they do a lot of unique sculpting. Obviously, they do a lot of crappy repaints in 15 different versions of Platinum Chase variants, but they have the ability to do unique sculpting that is good. They just almost never do it. So, can they be relied upon? I would say no. I'd say they are in the same boat as Mattel in that sense, in that they have released a majority of bad figures in modern history. The majority of their figures are bad releases, but glimmers of hope here and there. Okay, so both companies are kind of on equal footing there, though I would say Mattel stuff almost always looks like kids' toys, or closer to kids' toys, rather than collectibles, and McFarlane stuff, I would say, is kind of the opposite when they're good. Not the bad ones. The bad ones always look like crap. Don't get me confused, or don't confuse what I'm saying. Don't confuse what I'm saying. The bad ones are terrible. Okay, but Todd, I think, has a better edge toward the adult collector market. Which leads me to my next point. Who's in charge of these companies? And is it a good thing? Well, I don't know who's running Mattel, but I'm guessing it's a suit. Whoever's running Mattel is going to be somebody who's just basically trying to maximize profits. Now, they might care about the individual products and about the consumer, and we might get some good stuff. And that's every company that's a big company like that. It's no different than Hasbro, just at a slightly smaller scale. So it's potentially fine. Like, it could be great, or it could be somebody who doesn't care at all. They just see the DC license as a cash cow, and they know WB makes bad decisions, so they're just getting in while the getting's good, or whatever the saying is. So that's fine. Whatever, I'm indifferent about that. But McFarlane Toys is owned by Todd. And, well, is that good? I don't know. It's a good thing and a bad thing. The good thing is Todd actually cares about this stuff. He is a comic guy through and through. Like, that's his thing. And he's interested in making collectibles. And he's interested in things being cool. He's talked many times about how it just needs to be cool. Make it cool. Cool, cool, cool. And that's fine. But a lot of the products they make aren't cool, and they make really weird decisions. So having somebody like Todd in charge does have its benefits for sure. And it has its downsides, obviously, because it's like a George Lucas sort of thing. Like, he can make great stuff, but you let somebody be in charge too much, and it might not always be the best thing. Maybe you need some suits out there to rein it in or guide it or something like that. So there are benefits and downsides to somebody like Todd being in charge, of course. I would say, probably, I would be more inclined to expect good quality products from a company like McFarlane Toys versus Mattel, in terms of collectible, adult-oriented toys, not like little kids' toys or something like that. Mattel, I'm sure, would be better at that. So, which one's better? Is it good that Todd's losing the license? I know a lot of people are thrilled. There are a lot of people that hate the DC Multiverse line from McFarlane Toys, and they would be happy with anybody getting it other than them, other than Todd getting it again. And I get it, because like I said, most of their figures have been really bad. I collect the line sort of cherry-picking style. I get more than I would like to review, and I end up selling them off, or at least I will be. They're not great figures. Even the good ones are only questionably good, and it's a 7-inch scale, and it's just not what I want. And I don't think it's what a lot of people wanted. There's a lot of peg warming going on. So I get it. I get why people want Todd to lose the license, but I don't think it's always greener on the other side. The grass over at Mattel is not necessarily good grass. It could be very bad. It could be really, really bad, because their last efforts were terrible, and who's to say they're going to do better this time? They don't have a track record of making really good products, even with their best products. The DC Superheroes or DC UC line, they were good for what they were. Can anybody say that any DC products that Mattel put out were actually really good? No. I don't think so. And I would say the same thing's true about McFarlane Toys now, but they have made really good, like top of the industry style good figures in the past. Articulated action figures. So my personal take is, I think I would have rather seen Todd turn things around and make better stuff. That's obviously not something he gets the choice to do, because he doesn't have the license anymore. And it seems to me that the license is all-encompassing. Todd's not making action figures for DC at all after a certain point, from what I understand. So all we can do is wait and see if Mattel's going to do a good job. Everybody that's saying it's such a good thing, it might be, but it might not. It might be a terrible thing, and we have something even worse than what Todd did, because it could be bad figures from somebody who doesn't even care or try to make cool things, or reach into the deeper storylines or things like that. So there's not a lot to do here other than to speculate. We can't say objectively, realistically at all, if it's going to be a good thing or a bad thing. I personally don't think it's going to be a good thing. I think it's going to be a neutral thing. I think it's going to be more of the same. Because Todd wasn't going to make things better. Clearly, he's had enough time to do that, and he hasn't. And he has no choice now, so fine. He lost it. I'm not heartbroken. I don't care. I think it's a weird line now. Now it's a weird scale that is a bunch of Batman figures and a bunch of teams not completed and things like that. And so the whole thing was just not good, which is not surprising, because WB has mishandled DC basically in every way. So as it pertains to Todd, I'm not upset that he lost the license at all. I'm upset that he didn't do a better job with it, which he could have done. As it pertains to Mattel getting the license, I am indifferent about that too, although slightly inclined to believe that they're not going to be very good figures. I'm optimistic. I know they technically can do it. Like, they're a big enough company, they could hire any sculptor they want. They could hire anybody to design engineering that or the articulation that they want. It could be great. Are they going to do it? Like I said, have they made any great collectibles ever for like this type of thing for action figures? I can't think of any. Maybe there are some. I know there's a lot of Motu stuff out there, but it's a very specific thing, and I don't know that that translates to DC. And I don't know that you would call those great collectibles. They're good for what they are, and I think that's what Mattel is. It's kind of like what Hasbro is. They're good for what they are, but they're not like even close to competing with like actual good collectibles. So is it a good thing? I don't know. This whole video is going to end up with an I don't know, but I want to hear what you guys have to say. We can't know what's going to happen, but what do you think? What do you collect, or have you collected from Mattel that lets you believe that they're going to do a good job, or that they're going to do a bad job? Or did you think McFarlane was doing a great job? I kind of doubt it, but I'm sure somebody out there believes that. I don't know. My only thing that I can say in conclusion is to say we will see. We will find out how it's going to be, but I'm not overly optimistic. I'm completely indifferent, I would say. I'm ambivalent. I don't expect to be thrilled with what Mattel puts out. It'll probably be okay. It'll be in a smaller scale. I'm guessing it'll be 1/12 scale, so that's good again. But is it going to matter? And how many times do we want reboots, essentially? Like, we're getting a reboot in the movies. We're getting a reboot in the toys. How many of the same things do we want to keep buying? I don't know. To me, it's like, I don't care. I don't care. I'm ambivalent about the whole thing because Todd did a bad job. Mattel did a bad job before. I don't think they're going to do a great job now, and it's probably going to just be another stagnant DC line of figures, is my guess. Now, I hope they make something exceptional. Maybe they're going to pull a Jada somehow and release just this wonderful, quintessential fun action figure that's not like super high-end, but for the money, it's really good. I would love that. I don't expect that from a giant company like Mattel, but it's possible. So I guess I'll leave it with that. I don't expect it to be a great thing. I hope it is. And I'm curious what you guys think. So let me know in the comment section below what you think. This is kind of a weird topic to discuss because nobody knows anything about how it's going to go. But it'll be fun to talk about it. So do that. And I'll talk to you guys in the comment section. And I will see you in the next video.